This is All India Radio. In the program Spotlight, now we bring you a discussion on Rozgar Mela. The participants are Shekhar Iyer, political analyst, and Aditi Tandon, journalist.
Prime Minister Narendra Modi yesterday launched a very important Rozgar Mela, in fact, the very first kind of its initiative by the NDA government. And the target is to recruit 10 lakh personnel over a period of few months. You might recall, Mr. Iyer, that in June this year, Prime Minister and Prime Minister's office had ordered a comprehensive review of human resource situation across government departments and ministries. And it was found that there was as much as 21.7% vacancies in various government departments. So it was basically at that time that the Prime Minister had directed every ministry to speed up the process of filling vacancies. And what we saw yesterday was a natural progression of that initiative in the directions that were issued in June. So how do you see this very important initiative, considering the Prime Minister yesterday also said that many NDA-ruled states as well as UTs of Jammu and Kashmir, Dadra and Nagar Haveli will also follow suit with these kind of employment fairs?
Indeed, Aditi ji, this is a very, very significant, I would say, drive because the center has been on a mission mode, as you mentioned, since last June, to fill vacancies in government departments and ministries. What has happened was during the COVID and even before that, there was a backlog of vacancies which could not be filled for various reasons. And also in some other cases where vacancies which were lying dormant in the sense that people were not even aware that there were sanctioned posts and they had not been filled. So what we have seen is since last June, apart from the Department of Personnel and Training, the Department of Expenditure also has been working in coordination and to identify where there are sanctioned strengths which have not been filled, what is exactly the position. And so finally, the kind of regular follow-up were also done. Now today you are looking at a scenario where the target of eliminating 10 lakh vacancies, or in other words, recruiting 10 lakh people by December 23 looks like an achievable target. I mean, that is a very significant thing. And you also mentioned a figure, the percentages that were worked, because it was mentioned in March 1st, 2021. The number of persons employed by the center and union territories stood at 30 lakhs. As against the sanction of 40 lakhs. So there it was calculated that vacant positions in government departments were about 9,90,000 or 24% of the total sanctioned strength. Since then, circulars have gone out. As I mentioned, Ministry of Finance has also been, particularly the Department of Expenditure has been following it up. And these posts are at various levels. At the grade 4 level, you have drivers, cleaners, and other staff members. So, and also it goes up to even grade 1. So this has been a big process, and yesterday's Prime Minister's inauguration of this kind of a huge Mela kind of thing is actually a completion of the process of selection of vacancy in few months' time. And the fact that appointment letters were given in one go, about 75,000 employment letters are to be handed over starting with from yesterday, and these are to the youth who are in the age group of 18 to 29 and in about 38 ministries. And those agencies include your Central Armed Force personnel, sub-inspectors, constables, lower division clerks, steno, personal assistant, income tax officers.
Shekharji, just taking you back to Prime Minister's remarks when he inaugurated the job fair yesterday, in no uncertain terms, the Prime Minister acknowledged that the global economic situation is extremely testing in these times. He also said that, the side effect of once-in-a-century pandemic of COVID-19 cannot be wished away in 100 days. And he said that nobody is also anticipating that in 100 days we can actually tide over the crisis which COVID has induced. But equally, the Prime Minister stressed the fact that India has managed to insulate itself largely from the ongoing clouds of global recession. As we all know that Western economies are struggling, a lot of countries in Europe are struggling. Food inflation in the UK is going through the roof. We are reading it every day. In India also, obviously, the job situation is very dicey and we are at 4-year low as far as the employment rate is concerned. But the Prime Minister did instill some hope yesterday that the future will be different.
Exactly, Aditi ji, you have brought out a very important aspect that the Prime Minister highlighted yesterday. The COVID and the post-COVID situation has left many economies in a very bad shape. In fact, many people are fearing it is headed towards kind of a recession. And when you have a recession kind of scenario at a global level, how much of India can be insulated is a debatable question. Of course, ours is an inward-looking economy, so we may not be that affected. But the fact remains COVID and the post-COVID had made things very difficult in our country. But the fact that the government went on a very careful, calibrated way, the way they went in for Atmanirbhar package, then followed by, lot of incentives in terms of Skill India, Startup India, then for Atmanirbhar, programs where self-reliance was placed as a premium. So that was also a very important thing. And that is why when you are getting information about India emerging as, fifth largest economy, how it has moved up, that is largely because government has been able to, not immediately provide, one-time solution, but working towards solution in various sectors. And that has resulted in all these things. Some kind of hope, and that picture is not so dismal. Definitely, the government decision, even to fill up the vacancies, largely because the government realizes as the largest employer in this country, in the public sector, it must do its bit. That is why it started looking at the vacancies within its own system, because ultimately the jobs will have to be created in the private sector, because when the economy picks up, when our productivity increases, the jobs will be found there. But at the same time, government did not want to keep its hands tight. So government said, okay, let me also do something. And the other point that the Prime Minister pointed out was the kind of expenditure that is being undertaken at the public sector level, at the government level, towards infrastructure creation. Whether it is building highways or, the new railway lines, new train services, port management, port development, or leakages to all these various modes of transport. All these involves huge construction activity, and that is also generating jobs, which may not be reflected immediately in terms of statistics available to us, but definitely you are seeing there is a pickup. And this pickup will be reflected when figures are compiled by, say, early next year or middle of next year. But these are indications. So, one, we must see how in the post-COVID situation, how has India recovered when you compare with the situation in other countries.
Shekharji, also, this increasing stress of the government on self-reliance is extremely significant at a time when the world is facing potential chances of recession. We already know that India has emerged as the third largest startup ecosystem in the world. We now have about 107 unicorns, which valuations of course, USD 1 billion or more each unicorn. And the year 2021 alone, if you see, we saw a record 44 entries to the unicorn club. So, Prime Minister's increasing pitch with respect to Atmanirbharta is also picking up in the sense that you cannot endlessly depend on the government for employment, and you cannot endlessly also depend on conventional modes of employment. You have to find new avenues. You have to generate self-employment, create a startup ecosystem. So India has to look at another, policy level with respect to employment generation. There has to be a transformation in this sector.
Definitely, Aditi, as the Prime Minister pointed out yesterday, the most job-intensive sectors are particularly agriculture, definitely the private sector, and MSME, the medium and small scale enterprises. That is where the jobs. Now, because of the possibility and potential of these sectors to create jobs, that is why the importance of skilling India's youth for the future has become very important. That is why the central government is emphasizing most on the skill development of youth. You have the Pradhan Mantri Kaushal Vikas Yojana, where a huge campaign is going on to train the youth according to needs of the industry. This is a very important program where, from the whatever figures that are available, about 1.25 crore young people have been trained under Skill India Abhiyan, various skills, whether it is involves blacksmith or goldsmith or all kinds of craft. That skills are being upgraded and they are being regularly put to test. Certificates are issued so that with those certificates, these youth can get jobs. That is one thing. Then you have got the other things that has happened is, new initiative, like for instance, liberalizing drone policy, opening up of the space policy, and Mudra Yojana, 20 lakh crore worth of loans have been given. These are also creating a situation where, no more you are looking at a situation where the jobs will be there for youth to get, but also to encourage a situation where self-employment program is also encouraged, so that each individual who is today looking for a job can actually avail these Mudra loan and other loans, and possibility of he himself in a position to give 10 other people jobs. This is the kind of thing. Now, apart from that, encouragement given to self-help groups, particularly the khadi and village industry, that itself is generating a lot of possibilities and scope. For instance, for the first time in the country, goods produced under khadi and village industries, they have crossed 4 lakh crore. And 4 lakh crore of, volume, the turnover, if that is the value, the corresponding terms, job creation is being seen somewhere between 3 4 crore jobs, under this. And in this, lot of women are also involved. So therefore, this is one aspect. The other aspect is the kind of relief that was given during the COVID and post-COVID to the MSMEs. And that is, in MSMEs, the idea is to protect the jobs because already employing a lot of people, about 1.5 crore jobs. So that had to be protected, so incentives were given. Similarly, Manrega is also one which is intended to create jobs. Similarly, today about 7 crore people are covered under Manrega. As you mentioned, the biggest and the most ambitious project which looks at creating jobs is of course the Make in India and the Atmanirbhar Bharat. So, that is why you have seen in the defense sector or in other key sectors, lists have been drawn up where you have stopped imports of certain goods which can be easily made here. And defense sector, we have stopped many things, including light combat aircraft, you have got helicopters, lot of armored vehicles, so many things which used to come from here are now being manufactured in India, and the Defense Ministry has issued direction that purchases will be made from these, our Indian industries, so that they create jobs. They also, contribute towards that self-reliance.
Mr. Iyer, as you were speaking, I was also thinking that, we are almost at the cusp of the fourth industrial revolution, and artificial intelligence in the future is going to impact job creation in a big way. And you just said that a lot of jobs are being created by small and medium enterprises, which is actually true because recent very important study from 300 districts of India actually showed that jobs are being created more by the younger and smaller firms as against the larger and established ones. So clearly the government has a stake in promoting the small and medium industries because according to one estimate, India will need to create 100 million more jobs by 2030 because that's the kind of workforce we are going to have, and we need markets to absorb this workforce.
That is the kind of target we have before us. And we must also not underestimate the fact that, whenever thousands of kilometers are being added to the national highways, are being constructed. I mean, they have been done in the last 8 years. And constantly work is going on, as I mentioned earlier, in doubling railway lines, in gauge conversion, electrification of railway lines. Definitely, these are being done only with creation of new jobs because these require hands, because these involves technology, but at the same time, they require huge number of manual labor also. Similarly, when new airports are coming up, railway stations are being modernized, new waterways are building. Now, these are all, and apart from that, what about Prime Minister Awas Yojana, where 3 crore houses are being built under this scheme. This kind of schemes also create jobs because so many masons, so many laborers are put in this. So you can see one thing, Aditi, which is that center is not looking at just one sector or one way of it. In fact, they want to push forward in several fronts. So that is why you are, say, for instance, when they have allotted 1 lakh crore for infrastructure, they are looking at in terms how it can be scaled up in a manner in which jobs are created and new sectors are opened up. Take, for instance, tourism. Now, tourism is one area which suffered a lot during COVID, and post-COVID, it has been slowly picking up. Now, air travels have increased, trade services have become normal. All these are happening. But at the same time, there's new focus being given to religious tourism. The places of faith and spirituality and historical importance, these are being developed across the country, whether it is Ayodhya, whether it is Banaras, Kedarnath, or even Ujjain, the latest thing which is with the Prime Minister inaugurated there. So these are also creating jobs in the interior areas because you need service sector to provide for the new arrivals of tourists. So this is also an area which is getting a lot of attention. So what you can see is that the government is looking at, jobs as not about just some departments creating jobs and everything, but a holistic view and a wholesome view, which sees that sectors are encouraged to create jobs and government itself, it comes forward and is recruiting wherever possible because this recruitment itself is to, generate some kind of a push in the economy.
Right. I think that's very well put. In fact, the Prime Minister did say yesterday that India is taking a lot of risks to protect its economy from the global headwinds that are obviously going to come our way also someday. So thanks for your time on that note, Mr. Iyer.
Thank you very much, Aditi.
You were listening to a discussion on Rozgar Mela. The participants were Shekhar Iyer, political analyst, and Aditi Tandon, journalist. This program was produced and presented by the News Services Division of All India Radio. You can listen to it on our mobile app, News on AIR. This program is also available on our YouTube channel, News on AIR Official. You may email your opinion about this program at airnsdtalks@gmail.com.